I'll let them know they're last.
Leslie,
Just
you
wait.
can begin whenever you're ready.
You want to go?
No, just go later.
Sorry, I just checked one thing.
Good evening. Call to order. Little Haiti Revitalization Trust Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, and it is 6:11 p.m.
Leslie Ingladolens,
Present.
Ashley Toussaint, absent. Alyssa Zapata,
Present.
Robert Holland,
Present.
Rudy Meme, absent. You have quorum to proceed.
It's good. I see
Any
it.
person who acts as a
I'll turn
lobbyist
on one.
pursuant to this
Good, it's
city
okay.
line ordinance number
The recording is off.
1.460, modified in chapter 2, article
I'll just leave
6
it.
of the city code, must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities before city staff, boards, committees, and the city commission. A copy of said ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk, the city hall. The material for each item on the agenda is available online at the city clerk's website. Any person may be heard by the board through the chair for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the board unless modified by the chair. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, let's try this one. Better? Better? Okay. Okay, any person may be heard before the board through the chair for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the board unless modified by the chair. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before the board takes action on such proposition. The chair will advise the public when the public may have an opportunity to address the board during public comment period or at any other designated time.
Good evening. I asked the chair if she would grant me just a moment to have a few seconds of silence for Mr. Michael Clarkson. He was an amazing person I had the opportunity to meet and interact with. I only wish it had been sooner. I really enjoyed our spirited conversations about Little Haiti. I'm grateful for all he did for our Miami and our Little Haiti community, and I hope he's resting peacefully now. Thank you. And if we could just bow our heads for a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. So we'll open it up for public comment. If you'll just come up to the microphone, state your name and your address. Everyone will have 2 minutes. Anybody go ahead.
Hello, hello. Ah, that's better. Carl Bay, resident neighbor, regular attendee. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're hoping to place on the next agenda, by way of recommendation, the creation of the Second Avenue corridor for what we're calling currently Island Village. And so it's not on this agenda, I know, but there's been ongoing discussion for several of the shop owners that are in the neighborhood. So that the designation, even though it's formally called Little Haiti, there's room for growth and development. The other thing I'd like to make mention of is that there may be a need, the Brownsville Model C, CAC, Community Advisory Board, because I don't know if there's one here, has requested books and records from PHCD concerning the SPED, which is the Special Economic Development Grant Program. We're finding out that through the study, of the disparity study that's taking place, there's a question about what we call our fair share. And that is that even though the black population is 17%, and I'll keep this very short, 17% of the Miami-Dade County population, we're getting, surprise, surprise, less than 1/2 of 1% of the economic benefit coming out of the slice of pie. This year's number was 193 million. Last year's number was 184 million. The year before was 148 million, respectively. Those are dollars that did not flow to the black community in Miami-Dade County. So watch for the words that say our fair share, and I respect the time. Thank you.
Last call for public comment. Okay. We'll go ahead and go into presentations. Oh, checks. We're going to do check presentations.
We're awarding checks today for the small business grant to Attis Solar and STG Restaurant. If we can have the small business owners come forward to receive their payments.
Attis Solar. Oh. Okay.
You want to do it together or separately?
No, you do separate. Look at
Oh,
one,
okay.
and then we'll do the second business.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Can I keep this?
Just for picture purposes. You want the real check.
Okay.
You don't want that one. Thank you. Here you go, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Come in. Great job. It's your real one.
What is this, like a ball?
It's a mic.
I have a presentation by Parks at this time.
So the Parks Department is going to provide us with an update about the maintenance here at the Little Haiti Cultural Center.
Sounds like Tom, right?
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. A little rainy, yeah, so good. Good evening. I'm Chris Evans. I'm the director of the Parks and Recreation Department. I have LaClevia Morley-Snipes here as well, representing the Parks Department. We're here to give an update on some of the maintenance projects as well as programming. I'll start with the maintenance, and then we'll have my colleagues from the Office of Capital Improvements join me as well, and then we'll talk a little bit more about programming. So on the maintenance front, the project and the theater and the classroom building, the air conditioning project, I know the last time we were here, I believe we gave a September completion date. We've had a little bit of a delay with the delivery of the unit, but we're still on target to have the unit installed by November 1. After that unit is installed, the air conditioning for the theater building, the dance room, and the classroom and the gallery building will be fully operational. So that is a good update we wanted to provide for you all on that front. I'll have the Office of Capital Improvements come to discuss the 3 projects here in the Marketplace building. Wow.
Good evening. My name is Jose Perez, Capital Improvement Director. We're here to report on the three main items that we have in our set of drawings, which is the roofing project, the air conditioning for the auditorium in the back, and the drainage, which is the issue here on the side of the building. That, as was reported, that is scheduled to be completed at least by the end of, we're looking at the third week of November, 100% completion. And one of the delays that we're having, which is actually triggering the schedule, is the air conditioning delivery for the auditorium. That equipment is a good equipment. It was ordered by GSA. It's a carrier unit. I just saw the specs today that got approved, and that is scheduled to be delivered and installed. We're targeting for right before Thanksgiving. That's what's really driving the schedule on this. As far as the drainage project on the side, that is going to be done way before. So the contractor is already, we already have plans from MC Harry, the engineers and the architects, and that is scheduled to be done also as well by that time frame. So that would take care of the drainage on the side of the building between the two connectors. The other item is the roof itself. The roof right now, it's part of the actual work order is the actual covering of the roof. So the roof now should be sealed. I see that we got a couple issues, which we already called the contractor. But that's going to take care of the roof itself, and it won't prevent you from using the facility. Now, when the contractor moves in to actually start ripping out the roof out, it's just be noise. But I think your events are during the weekend, so that's not really going to affect you. So if you're in the building here during the week that the contractor is working, you're just going to hear noise just like if you were in your own house. Other than that, like it's been reported, it will be completed. It's funded, and we will complete this project by, we're targeting the third week of November, or sooner. Okay. You want to add anything? No?
The construction in the corridor will start next month. They've already come out, have the utilities marked out. They were waiting for the gutter. As you could probably imagine, it's a little hard to hang a gutter in the rain. We've had a couple of days of rain, so they got the gutter in between the two projects installed today. Thank goodness we had this big rain today, because I noticed that there's a leak over there, and I've already called the roofer since we noticed it. He'll be here tomorrow to take care of that leak that we've got there. But we're moving forward, just like we said in the last meeting. Nothing has really changed. The design team is moving forward with their investigative testing and everything. So they're putting together a good plan for us. It's going to retain the look of the original facade, and we'll get you back to normal as soon as we can.
Good evening, everyone. Like Chris said, my name is LaClevia Morley Snipes. I'm the Assistant Director of Administration for the Parks Department, and I currently supervise the Little Haiti Cultural Complex. I think you all are aware that the last few months we have not had a center manager, so I've been the acting center manager in their absence. So just a couple of quick updates. Internally, from the Parks Department, we've done some improvement here at the center. So we purchased some new bathroom faucet fixtures, as well as toilet fixtures, sinks, we're working on the sinks, I'm sorry, toilet seats and hand dryers. So basically the restrooms are being upgraded so that they will be hands-free. We are working with our General Service Administration Department, who has already installed the hands-free fixtures on our toilets in the foyer, the bathrooms in the foyer, the theater foyer. So those have already been installed. We are working with our procurement department to secure a vendor to install new sinks and countertops, and that's going to be done throughout the facility. So it'll be a work in progress, but we have started that. They've also installed new toilet seats. So you'll start to see a lot of these improvements happening over the next month or so. We are doing some other additional upgrades once the project is completed that they mentioned in between the two buildings. The Parks Department will start with the replacement of the dance floor. We're also going to be installing some new baseboards, doing some upgrades in there, and also installing new cabinetry for storage in that area. And then I have been here quite often in the last couple of months, so the team and I here, we've started pinpointing some things. They are working on some internal improvements here. They've started cataloging some of the supplies here and decluttering, so you'll notice some of that happening. We have started performing site inspections, so those will be done on a bi-monthly basis and submitted to our administrative section, of the Parks Department, so we can assist with ongoing repairs and maintenance. And then they are also getting quotes for some little mini projects here. So one of the things we'll be doing is getting the floors stripped and waxed. And I think you all noticed that one of the staff here did an excellent job of, resealing the floor in here. So they'll be doing these mini projects throughout the next couple of months. The staff here has started doing some individualized training with the assistance of our HR department. So they're doing that as well. And then we're also working, like they mentioned, the roof replacement. The Cultural Center Manager recruitment opened on Monday, July 29th, and it was initially scheduled to close on Friday, August 16th, but it was extended additional 2 weeks, so it closed on Friday, August 30th. Those interviews are slated to take place the second week of October. We have a few things that we're planning. So one announcement is that the marketplace will be reopening on October 5th. So you can look forward to things being posted on our social media handles to announce the programming, and then also solicit vendors who want to vend in the marketplace. We will also be hosting our first food truck feed, and to coincide, I'll say, with Carnival that's celebrated in South Florida and all the rich heritage of the people that reside here. So that'll be our first food truck thing, so we're inviting you to come out and participate. You can also get additional information about that on our social media. Thursday, October 3rd, the Parks Department is working with our procurement department to host our first industry day that will take place here at the center. And what that is designed to do is inform residents and businesses on how to become official vendors with the city of Miami. So they will be equipping everyone with the information they need to become an official vendor. And then once everybody meets those requirements, they will be added to an official list that the city can use to hire for various services. So specifically for the center, what we're targeting people of various art disciplines, film, photography, music, event planning, decorating, things of that nature, but it's not limited to that. And you'll see additional flyers go out about that as well. We have been working with the trust to put our information on their mailing list. Hopefully you've seen some of that information, and working with some of the other entities to spread the word as well. And last but not least, next Tuesday, we'll be having our strategic planning meeting. Many of you, I think the last time we had a meeting, I've asked you all to complete a survey to solicit your feedback for things that you wanted to see improved at the center, as well as to get feedback about programming. So we ask you to come out next Tuesday so you can hear the results, and also help us plan programming so we can hear your voice as we move forward and activate the center and make this area what we know it could be. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? No?
Presentation by FIU.
From over here. I'm going to present from over here. We'll be using the screen. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Kevin Greiner with the FIU Planning Consortium. We're busy finishing the playbook, the strategic plan for the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust. Thursday, we had our final community workshop And it was an unusual step in that it was above and beyond what we normally do. And it is the last chance for everybody who contributed to weigh in on the final options that we're contemplating for the strategic plan. I'm going to go very quickly. If I can get this. Here we go. If you remember, the playbook is actually a combination of items, and it's actually an ambitious combination of items. Not just a strategic plan, but it's really a spending, funding plan. We think the biggest single problem is finding ways for the trust to pay for itself and to pay for its activities over time, because the funding that it does have is very limited and time subscribed. We're also delivering a media package, which is unusual for a project like this, but we're leaving behind marketing videos, information videos. These are actually very slick, very highly produced video promoting culture, art, food, and life here in Little Haiti. So it's a great package of assets that we're leaving behind. Yeah, I can barely see.
Yeah.
We have done, you have to get closer. So the parts that we have finished already, we've already done our technical background. This is a combination technical background from the consulting team, all 9 of us, input from the public, and input from the board. We've completed all of the items. We'll be submitting those in about 10 days or so. An organization study, an economic study, market study for the housing market. We're also looking at land bank strategies, business development. We're also looking at some organizational recommendations for the trust in the future. So to stay as a trust, or are there some organizational options that it could have in the future that helps it carry out its mission? Sorry. Like I said, we're also delivering the promotional support, the video, the marketing pieces. We've already committed one of the videos. There will be 3 more in the final package. What's left to do is that we're completing the video package. We're going to be doing a jobs open house, a 40 under 40 focus group. We'll be finishing the playbook, a design guideline book. And then we also, we're very happy to announce is that Little Haiti Stories is also a part of the promotional package. We've set up a platform, and I think Joanne, in the next week or so, will be rolling out an address where you can create your own TikTok-style 60-second videos. Tell us what you love about Little Haiti. Tell us what's most important. Tell you what its biggest issues are. Tell us your history. Tell us your family history. But tell us your story and what you think about Little Haiti. This is going to be a library of videos that will be kept on the new website, the Trust new website, and become a part of this record of not only just developing the plan, but also promoting and understanding Little Haiti. The board completed a vision and mission statement with its a retreat that we did with the board, which was extremely productive. The one last thing is that we started it Thursday. The QR code is right here. I'm going to ask everybody, I know there have been lots of surveys going around, and you've got 2 more, it looks like. But please help us, help the board. This is your chance to do your final weigh in on the things that you think are most important for the trust to achieve and its most important programs. It's a survey. Actually, it's easiest to do it on your phone, quite honestly. It takes about 15 minutes to finish, and we're relying on it very heavily to help us make some of our final decision making. So everybody, please go ahead and take the QR code and fill out a survey. Everybody's welcome. There are that's the QR code again. So as you fill out the survey, it's really easy. It's like recommending and shopping on Amazon. 0 stars, you don't think it's an important program. 5, you think it's one of the most important things to do. And be very judicious. be very disciplined about the items that you recommend, because the trust only has a certain amount of capacity. You may love every single program, think it's a great idea, but if you give everyone 5, you tell us what's most important. So choose those 5, 6, 7 things you think are most important out of the list of 46 or so. And that's how you fill out the survey. Simple 0 or 5 stars. Look for the plan where we're rounding the bend on completing the entire playbook and all of its products. We expect a final plan around the end of the month, and then a final event where we roll out the plan in an open house, and that will roll up what we think is a really exciting program, because we're also delivering some items that help the trust get rolling, introductions to banks, partners, and funding as well. Not just the plan that we drop behind, but actually contacts and meetings that we'll be setting up for the trust as it adopts the plan. So, any questions from the board? All right. Thank you.
We have another presentation by the Dupuy Building within Magic City Innovation.
Good evening, board. Good evening, community. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Sean Wilt, the Vice President of Development for Plaza Equity Partners and the Magic City Innovation District. With me, I have the astute historic architect, Richard Heisenbottle from RJ Heisenbottle Architects, who's been the primary architect for our Dupuy rehabilitation and reconstruction. So we previously presented to the board and the community. We submitted to the city. We've gone through 3 cycles of comments from the city. We took into light the comments we received from the board and the community, and we went back to the drawing boards. We dug deep into the Secretary of Interior standard to try and understand what is the best case, the best use, and how do we best represent and best reconstruct the Dupuy building to maintain its historic value. When we look at the future use, our intention is to put an incredible restaurant on the corner to maximize the use of the public, whether it's for community events, whether it's for private events. And in order to do that, Mr. Heisenbottle will go through some of the technical design features that are incorporated in that, but in this great restaurant use, we want there to be a rooftop terrace, right? That was always a part of the plan. Again, unfortunately, it succumbed to the conditions prior to us, getting this approval, but it was always in light and always a part of the plan to incorporate the rehabilitation sections as well as the reconstruction sections. When the county required us to relocate the Dupuy building out of the right-of-way, at that time, other than trying to save a few of the exterior elements, the entire building was going to have to be reconstructed and relocated with current setbacks out of the right-of-way, with the intended use to have a rooftop terrace. You'll see through the technical design of how we've updated it, that there's some features that, as the Secretary of Interior standards allows, that were created and incorporated to provide for this new use of the Dupuy building, which we think is to the best benefit of the public as a part of Little Haiti and the overall Magic City Innovation District. Okay. We do have a presentation that'll help show the actual specific plans and drawings Mr. Heisenbottle is going to go through, but please keep that in light and in mind as you consider our design, which basically replicates as much of the building as possible while incorporating a few new features that are required to bring it up to today's standards, today's codes, and allow for this intended new use of the building. So if we can get the presentation up, and does the board at least have?
They do.
Okay. We have a few extra copies, I think.
We have dozens of
Yeah, we have extra copies if anybody specifically wants one, but the presentation will be put up on the board. Here, Rich, I'll handle that.
Kind of thing. This is from June, this one's from August.
Thank you, Sean.
She was asking if this was applicable, and I said it had different dates. This was from June, and this is now from August.
This is
Yeah.
updated with some adjustments.
This is a new design.
That's what she asked.
But there are several features that
Thank you.
hopefully accommodate many of the comments and requests and allow for the city to use.
Smaller copies also?
Yeah, I'll grab them.
Again, it's going to be up here, but it might be hard to see. Does anybody want?
I'm in my office.
John.
I got it. Okay, everyone, sorry for the little bit of disorganization, but we did not have the opportunity to present this visually to all of you last time, and we're at least able to get this up on a proper screen this time and give you some better visuals, I hope. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Rich Heisenbottom. I'm president of RJ Husband Architects and the preservation architect for this project. We want to walk you through as soon as I find the clicker, as we call it around our house. Well, then you're gonna have to mouse me through it, okay? Very good, thank you. Nina is our Director of Preservation Services and my right-hand man, if you'll excuse me. Nina, go to the next sheet here. What we're trying to show you on this sheet, and I hope you can see at least on what we passed out in the back, is the original demolition and reconstruction drawings that we have done.
This shows the original location.
In this case, this is the original location, and what you see here is that this building is right up literally in the public right of way, and that was part of the massive challenge that we had going forward with the project. If we flip to the next slide, we should be on slide 9, I think. What we see is that the building was historically set at the right of way along Northeast 2nd Avenue. All right. Or as they say, all right, all right, all right. That's the important thing to note is that all of the trees on the historic property still remain, except for one tree that happened to be growing out of the roof of the building. Go to the next slide, and we'll see an overlay that compares the historic building location, which is identified by the hatched lines that we can't read on this projector, but should show up on your handouts, and the light grayscale hatch, which represents where we propose to put the building. So it's literally just set 10 foot back from where it was. We're taking great care to recreate the building as accurately as possible, paying as close attention to the exterior features and the overall physical appearance as one possibly could. We did this by laser scanning the building and then drawing everything as accurately as possible from the laser scan. So the accuracy of what we're putting back is really rather tremendous. Let's go to the next slide. The proposed site location, as previously discussed in the site plan, is on this side. You can notice that it's just a little bit further back. Go to the next slide, number 12. It's important to note that the interior of the building was never historically designated and was likely modified after Dr. Dupuy's death in 1955. So between 1955 and 2015, a lot of changes happened to the building and it fell into incredible disrepair, as I think we all know. The floor plan here on the left is based on the findings of our 2017 laser scan and our structural evaluation. Dr. Dupuy's occupancy, in his occupancy, only the lobby would have been accessible to the public, as seen in this demolition and first floor plan. And given the lack of evidence and historical designation, no interior features or paint schemes will be recreated. This approach is guided by the Secretary of the Interior Standards, which advises us against reconstructing historic floor plans without accurate documentation. So we're just not going to do something that is not accurate. Therefore, the proposed first floor will remain open and adaptable to future commercial tenant uses, and as Sean has indicated, hopefully we're going to get a great restaurant in there. And the same thing goes for the second floor. Nina, you can shift. The only thing new on both the first and the second floors is the stairway and the elevator to provide handicapped access to the second floor. And although the elevator is a new addition to the building, it is necessary to meet the ADA requirements. So we've designed it to have minimal impact. You will not see that elevator from the outside of the building. It's kind of hidden inside the roof. Similarly, the first floor and the second floor plan will also be an open plan, setting up for a future tenant and for a future restaurant. And on the next slide, you can also see the great care is given to the relationship between the two buildings. We treat them as the two buildings that they were and would be as they historically were. The roof lines remain exactly the same with the addition of the rooftop terrace and the trellis on top of the rooftop terrace. On the right-hand side here, if this was a little sharper image, as they say, you would see the trellis over top of the rooftop terrace. It is set back from the front of the building so that everyone knows it's an addition and not really part of the original building. Before 1955, the stairs between the two buildings was enclosed by a shed roof addition that was probably very incompatible and unsympathetic to the original structure. Despite its functional intent of providing protection to the stair, this poorly designed addition disrupted the building's visual continuity and historical character, and we do not propose to reconstruct that shed roof that was there on an angle. Instead, our new stair and elevator, the elevator circulation design, is a critical element and addresses both the functional needs and the aesthetic goals. And the proposed design features a flat roof that provides the necessary ceiling heights for both the stair and the elevator to the second floor. To replace the solid wall that was in the front of where the former shed roof was, we are introducing two new windows, creating a clear, transparent separation between the two original buildings. an architectural method or feature that we often incorporate with historic buildings where we want to show them, separate them, do it with glass. So in between the two, you'll notice that there is a window that provides this separation between what was originally two buildings. A steel trellis is being added to the roof on the southern portion of the building to provide shade, which would allow the roof terrace to serve as a functional space for future tenants and has minimal impact on the main facade. It is supported. Yeah.
I'd just also like to highlight a key feature to this and the requirement of this in order to access the rooftop and to utilize the rooftop as a rooftop terrace. The old shed roof, again, in its very poor design and actually diminishing from the historical value of the building and the history of it, in our opinion. The bottom of the shed roof was only at 5 feet 7 inches. So in order to create this new and great public use and access to the rooftop terrace, there has to be some alteration to this area of the building. And again, as you can see, we've tried to do that. You know, we introduced the flat roof, but tried to introduce the windows to help represent, as the two buildings stood alone, the transparency of the two buildings and the glass between them, as Richard stated.
I think Sean probably stated that better than I did. The trellis is set back 3 foot 7 inches from the historic facade to create a visual separation and a distinction that it is distinct from the historic aspects of the building. And on the east facade, the trellis vertical supports that come up also stand away from the facade. So the trellis, while it hangs over the facade or sits on the facade, does not appear to come from or support itself from the exterior walls of the historic building. It stands apart to distinguish itself as a new element. So the Secretary of Interior Standards for Reconstruction allow for new elements like elevators, overrides, glass railings, metal trellis systems, provided that they are clearly differentiated from the historic elements to avoid falsifying the historic appearance while ensuring compatibility with the building's historic nature. The storefront featured a decorative masonry block. Our proposed design incorporates new decorative masonry in its historic location, specifically around the storefront entrance and at the corners of the west elevation. This can be seen in our figure 27 up there. The photographs on the right illustrate the decorative masonry blocks were a prominent building material between 1890 and 1930. And we have documented the size and style of these masonry blocks, which are available. We'll actually purchase those even today and reinstall them and reuse that sort of block on the building. The proposed fenestration pattern is designed to reflect the window configurations from the building's period of historic significance. As we said before, the shed roof addition obscured the 3 windows on the south side of the north building, so that's coming away, and those windows will be visible now. The addition of a new infill between the 2 buildings includes 2 circulation points leading to the rooftop terrace, which coincide with the original window opening. So the original window openings provide the doors, the door areas to get out onto this terrace. Additionally, the original window openings on the 2nd floor, the first bay in the east, was infilled at an unknown date, as evidenced by the recessed infill and length of the sills. So we're able to understand the size of these windows by looking at their window sills, by looking at the areas that were infilled, and get the window sizes and all very, very correct. The glass railing is first and foremost on the introduced on the south elevation along the stepped parapet so that we meet the code requirements for a 42-inch high guardrail. So that guardrail will protect anyone from falling off of the roof in those areas where the original parapet was too low to meet current code. And
I just wanted to highlight on the south elevation here that those windows and the fenestration on the second floor, they were concealed by that shed roof. So you couldn't even see them where they were because they were a part of the original north building, and that shed roof actually concealed them. So again, going to its historic nature, we're putting it back in the same location, but in its present day, they were not visible to the public.
So the fenestration on the eastern elevation is being proposed to match the historic fenestration pattern in terms of its configuration and size. In figure 13, we propose restoring the original door and window, that original door and window configuration. We've got these photographs there that illustrate how we got them, where we derived those from. You can see that the windows were infilled in some of the photographs, and a second entrance was added on the south floor of the north building, as indicated by the shaded lines and the recess and the window sill. So we've gotten it right by looking very carefully at the remains of the building and the stories that it told us. On slide 19, we see the interventions, such as the glass railing, were previously approved by the City of Miami on the Miami Women's Club project. It is a common situation. It's commonly used on other historic preservation projects because the glass is very neutral architecturally to the design of the building. In the case of the Women's Club, what you're seeing on the bottom there and on the upper left photographs, you don't even realize that the glass is sitting up there, and it's going to be the same way as we use it on Dupuy. As previously discussed, the new elevator is proposed, and actually the elevator override only extends 2 foot 8 inches above the roof line, so the elevator will not be visible from any public street. Unless you're standing on the roof, you probably won't see that elevator. So, according to the Secretary of the Interior's, according to the structural engineering report, the bearing walls were originally constructed of reinforced oolitic limestone with stucco finish applied to the exterior surface. Additionally, the east elevation towards the north featured an addition that was constructed from concrete block. The Secretary of the Interior Standards for Reconstruction approves the use of substitute materials as long as they faithfully recreate the historic appearance. So while we will not be using the original reinforced oolitic limestone here, we will have the exact same finish as the building originally had, which is that smooth finish stucco. Therefore, the building will be reconstructed using concrete block, and the finish, again, as I said, will be the smooth finish stucco. The owner has proposed, at the suggestion of some of you around this room, has proposed to provide an interpretive and educational plan for the building that will include discussions of the building's original construction materials as well as its uses by Dr. Dupuy. Our proposed design includes installing new impact-resistant aluminum windows that closely match the original and profile, dimension, and sash configurations. Again, the Secretary of the Interior standards permit the use of substitute materials as long as they replicate the original appearance. Aluminum is a compatible substitute material that is frequently approved by the City of Miami's Historic Environmental Preservation Board when it comes to windows. And let's talk about the identifying the building's historic pressed metal panels. We have some great photographs and great images of these metal panels. These panels are actually will be recreated by a company called W.F. Norman Corporation, which has the original molds of our design and the equipment to create the molds for any designs that one might come up with. So their production process has remained unchanged since 1898, and we intend to utilize these original rope-dropped hammers actually press this metal to create these otherwise modern, rather than modern hydraulic presses. It's really creating that metal cornice the old-fashioned way and duplicating it exactly. Additionally, we have selected historical signage to commemorate the early mid-1950s period. This can be seen in the lower historic signage image and on the following slides that are going to follow. The original drug and prescription signs were prominent on the north elevation. We propose recreating this signage in style and size, but with the future tenants' names and graphics. We are also proposing a third sign on the cornice pediment as requested by the community during our Little Haiti Trust presentations. That sign will prominently identify the building as the Dupuis building, right in the middle. This cornice pediment was chosen because, as shown in the historical metal storefronts, the building's name was often placed in this location as depicted in the enlarged drawings. So I'd like to emphasize that the totality of the historic signage has never been a requirement of other historic preservation projects in the city of Miami, and we think by incorporating these three signs as nicely as we propose here, it'll really do good justice to the historic nature of the building. We've got some slides that show the materials board. Here you'll see the materials highlighting key components of the main facade on the elevation. Unfortunately, it's just tough to imagine those images at this point, but that's those materials. But they all match the original materials of the building. So I know that was rather lengthy. I hope I didn't bore you all to death. But if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask. Well, thank you very much for your attention and board. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Questions from the board?
I'll go last. Go ahead.
I'm fine, we leave it to you.
You want me to go next?
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you guys for coming and representing this. So I do have questions. Struggling a little bit with the plans and some of the things, and I did my best to go through them and review them. So I did make some notes for myself, so if it's okay, I'd like to kind of go through the notes and ask my questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first question that I have is I'm a little bit confused and I'm having a hard time understanding the situation that is going on where you have the new aluminum doors and what was the shed roof and the stair return and now the elevator return. I'm having difficulty in what was these plans and then what I pulled from our agenda and everything that you guys submitted, if this is 21 feet 4 inches or 25 feet 7 inches, for example. There's different sections that I'm having a hard time matching up. And so I understand what you said in the presentation, Mr. Heisenbottle, about the elevator return only being 4 inches over the parapet, but I'm having a hard time figuring all that out.
So, and I'll address that and let you get technical if necessary. But when you look from the west elevation, the farthest side of the street, I don't know if you can go to the slide where it shows the visual.
We have two sections.
There's two sections, but at the end of the day, the new shed roof portion of the building on the west elevation that is being incorporated, that is eliminating the shed roof as a new use and a part of the reconstruction of the Dupuis in order to allow this new and better public use as a restaurant, to have a rooftop terrace. It incorporates this flat roof instead of the shed roof. When you incorporate that and you look at that, where the elevator shaft is on the eastern portion of the building, from the western, the farthest most west side of the street on Northeast 2nd Avenue.
That's what this slide is.
And when you look at
section is showing right now.
sheet HEP 13, it shows you the visual that you will have from the farthest point of the west side of Northeast 2nd Avenue. The elevator shaft will not be visible from the right of way.
That I'm looking
Let
at
me try
here.
to simplify
This is the south side of the building, and best I can tell, the rear of the building that you're referencing on sheet 13.
Correct.
Okay. I'm concerned with the view from Northeast 2nd Avenue.
There's a section from Northeast 2nd Avenue.
That top one is standing from Northeast 2nd Avenue.
Looking from all the way across the street. You have, it is,
This is the side. I'm concerned we're standing in front of it.
Yep, so this
Yes.
is where you're standing, and you're gonna see the front of the building, right here.
and
This-
that's
this
from,
is the
that's
elevator
from
shaft
across
back
the
here.
street. If you stood in front of it, you couldn't see it at all.
Obviously, you're gonna see- you're
Couldn't see
gonna see
anything.
So is it at all 4 inches or over
No,
a
no,
foot?
no.
This is
Let
my confusion though.
Please, let me unconfuse you, because it's, first of all, the elevator setback well into the middle of the building. So that it's far away from the edge. If it was on the front edge of the building, it'd be very visible, right? If you put it in the middle of the building, and then we've used an elevator that doesn't have a lot of override to it. It only has 2'4" or 2'7", I'm forgetting the exact number, I stated it a minute ago, of override above the roof. So imagine that the elevator override on this building, way back in the middle of the building, is not even as high as your counter here.
The reason though
So
you need.
imagine going across the street trying to see that. You can't see it is our point, and that's why we did it that way.
The
So
reason
there's-
why we're having this discussion, though, my understanding is because you want to access the rooftop, the new rooftop terrace with this elevator, correct?
We have to access the whole second floor with this elevator, not just the
But the
rooftop
size
terrace.
of the overrun, the return of the stairs and the elevator would not be the same if it was only an internal elevator and internal stairs.
No, that's completely wrong.
So it's the same height even though it's going
It
outside.
doesn't matter who's getting out of the
But-
elevator, it's
but-
got to
but
be
it-
the same.
But at the end of the day, the answer is no. We researched and found what we could find as the most limiting and the
minimum
smallest
override.
the minimal override of an elevator that we could find in the market, so that this portion of the roof
Would never be
So it's-
visible from
my
the.
understanding in this
regardless,
discussion-
regardless of the rooftop terrace,
I hear
there's
you.
a second story that has to have ADA access and has to have
Inside,
the
though.
elevator inside. Right,
So-
and the elevator is
The
inside.
outside has no relation to.
When I'm standing on Northeast 2nd Avenue, directly in front of the building, not looking from the south, in front.
Yes.
It's set back and it's only 4 inches above the parapet.
No, it's not 4 inches above the parapet. What gave you, it's 2'4" above the roof line, and the parapet is in front of that. Nonetheless, you
So
cannot
the roof deck
see
or the parapet is what I'm trying to understand.
The roof deck.
Thank you. And then my next question is, if this is such a slight difference, why can't the shed slanted roof be kept? Why can't that be put back?
The shed slanted roof should never have been put there in the first place.
Whether it was or
It-
was
it-
not correct, it was designated with that and it's part of what was there. So I just want to understand if it's such a small return, the stairs, all of that, instead of having a square, small roof over the returns and the stairwell and all of that, why can't it be sloped?
So as a part of keeping with the photo you see on the top right there shows how the buildings were split before the colonnade was added and the shed roof and its poor construction was added. All of that, I agree, was a part of the historic designation. However, it is very degrading. It was not in like kind of the rest of the architecture and the structural, components of the Dupuis. The staircase is in that area, right? The original staircase, not the one added to the east elevation that is no longer existent. So the staircase was from Northeast 2nd Avenue going east up the building where this shed roof was. The shed roof was there to provide this, interior space for the staircase and to connect, the north building to the south building. So what we try to do is, one, encapsulate, have an interior staircase in basically the same similar location between the buildings, so the buildings have their same footprint, respectively, and to provide ADA access to the north portion of the second floor on the north portion that, is required. It requires an elevator. So we put them in this similar location between where the buildings were, where access was historically utilized throughout the life of the Dupuy building. Regardless, there has to be an elevator to get to the second floor. We tried to put it to where it has the minimal intrusion, the minimal issues, anything of that nature. That cavity in that space where this staircase gets to, because...
Understood. I understand you want to modernize the building. I understand where you're going with that. But modernizing the building and maybe making some concessions to keep some of the features is what I'm asking. So I understand, I heard your response, and I'll go on. I don't want to, get into an argumentative situation. For example, I'm looking for reasons, information, and understanding is my purpose in trying to, I really took time and reviewed the plans, so I'm trying to...
The other point that I think I said earlier, but that I wanted to make again, was that the shed roof, the bottom of the shed roof, when you look at the old picture before it was demolished, the height of that shed roof was at 5 feet 7 inches. So if there's any use, which our intended use and new use for this is to be a restaurant, we want to utilize a rooftop terrace, and in order to do that, you can't have the shed roof and access the roof in any way, in any fashion. Again,
but slight modifications could be made where you raise the shed roof slightly or something of that nature. All I'm asking is that you take into consideration that it was there and it is part of the historic pictures and all of that.
We gave it a great
it significantly detracts from the appearance because of the height that it has to be in order to provide that cavity, provide the,
I hear you.
the headway.
I hear you.
So.
Historic preservation is not always about the pretty things and the sexy things and the beautiful things and, architectural design. Even if it's ugly, sometimes it's part of historic preservation. So that is something that, I'm having a little bit of, pause with because, it's about everything, not just what is cool or nice or beautiful or all of that. So that is something, though, that is a sticking point, at least for me, is the slanted roof. So if you guys, want to reconsider that or figure out a way, that's something that is important, at least in my opinion, on the front of the building. So I'll go on because I do have I have a couple more things to ask about. So I do want to understand that I get the internal stair, I get the necessity for an elevator and modernizing the building, but there was 2 original staircases on the outside of the building, and both of those have been removed. Would consideration be given to put those back in the places that they were for additional, exits and back of the house uses and those types of things? Because there was 2 staircases, and I guess they were metal staircases or wood staircases, but they were originally there, and those are both gone as well. And there's only the internal stairs and the elevator inside, from what I could tell from my review.
2 things on that. One, the east elevation stair, I don't know the exact year, maybe you do, we looked for it, we tried to find, but the exterior staircase on the east elevation was a later renovation. We're going back to our historic and significant, the period of significance being from 1902 to 1955. We do not believe that staircase had significant value and it was added on later. The other staircase, which you're referring to, was originally an exterior staircase, was during the period when it was actually designated, was now an interior staircase because of the shed roof that you're alluding to that is valuable to this. That was an interior staircase, which is how we're trying to replicate and have a staircase in that same location to replicate, and represent that historic location of how you got to the second floor.
Thank you. the steel canopy and trellis situation, my opinion is that this is structure and it's new structure. I mean, this is a substantial addition to the building. I mean, this is really, coming up and over, and the new aluminum doors and storefront and glass railing and everything, this is a very, these are aluminum impact doors. These are Mr. Glass doors, these are heavy duty, Miami style doors. And there is a very, very stark transition between one to the other. There's no kind of, middle area where, say, the stamp panels or anything continues over. I mean, it is, right against each other. So at least in my opinion, it's too much old and too much new, and it's a lot of, I didn't get a rendering in these packages. This is from the package in June, and this is, something that you had distributed. I don't know when I
That's from the
apologize.
original concept
Okay,
in
but
2018.
yeah, these are just things I had in my files. So I'm trying to, as best I can visually, here, for example, in this one, in your last presentation, the shed roof stayed, and there was more of a transition. Here, it's right up on the, street. Here it's set back. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time, and I really think there needs to be more of a careful transition between the old and the new, and that this situation where you have the steel supports here and this trellis coming over needs to be better camouflaged. It is stark, it is new structure. I mean, it's a lot up there. This really changes the facade of the building from Northeast 2nd Avenue. This is, it is substantial. This is not, it's not camouflaged very well. So maybe stepping this back a little bit further, camouflaging it better would be more palatable. But I mean, these are really coming up and over the building. I mean, these are like way different steel supports, then you have the columns in the front. It's a difference from the front to the side. There is, almost like shores coming up over the building. So I'm having a difficult time kind of trying to rectify the original arches here, and then you turn the corner, and now you have almost like steel post shores. I don't know what else to describe them as.
And we understand that, and as we design this, please.
First of all, we would not want to do them as arches. We don't want to mimic the front elevation. What we've done with that is we've made it a trellis. So if you'll see on the renderings that have been distributed that we intend to grow vines, it stands away from the historic building. And at the same time, we intend to grow vines and ivy and foliage on, make a green wall out of those. What do we have? Nina, do we have 4 posts there or 5 posts? Think of them as 6-inch by 6-inch tubes, 3, 6, that actually hold that up. And again, and we did think it through very carefully. That's why they're set back from the front elevation of the building, so, and not right at the front elevation of the building. So,
And that's a part of the sustainability of the new use. Miami, the heat effect, and creating that natural barrier, natural heat, to the south of the building. And then specifically the Secretary of Interior Standards states that because we're adding this new feature, which we are, which the Secretary of Interior Standards allows for, that it is supposed to be different. And again, maybe you view it as too much, but it's intended to be different, to stand alone, to be its own design, to be a part of it, so that it does not appear that we are trying to mimic the historic portions of the building that are there. And again, there's numerous examples of where this has been done, all throughout the city and approved by
As far as the Miami Women's Club, though, this was a renovation. This, unfortunately, is a demolition. So the Miami Women's Club was renovated and exists, and this was an existing space that a glass railing was added to. So this is a little bit different, at least for me, because this building no longer exists, unfortunately, and the Miami Women's Club was taken care of with great detail and repurposed and renovated, and all of that turned into adaptive reuse, and the restaurant in there is great, and all of those things that we already know. So this becomes a little bit of a hard situation because it's kind of not an exact apples to apples comparison. So that's tough for me to, rectify in my brain as well.
It is an exact comparison. That is a rooftop addition that was never there before, that we added on the roof. that is now a wonderful place to socialize and go and have a drink and look out at the bay and enjoy. And the same glass railing that's used on that, in that case, on the Women's Club, is the same kind of glass railing we propose to use here. Very unintrusive because
There's
of
no
its
trellis,
transparency.
Mr. Heisenbottle, there's no trellis up there, there's no structure, there's none of
There's
that.
a hard roof that extends out.
When you even look at the pictures here, it's an open deck. You know, even the pictures that you're sharing, and, you know, it's a little bit different. You know, this is not movable structure. You know, this is,
It's not at the Women's Club.
so I just, you know, I'm having a hard time, you know, it's a big difference from what was there and what is being proposed and the uses and all of that. So I think that as far as the public right of way, I want to say something because it's my understanding that the county did not ask for this building to be demolished because it was in the public right of way. If it was to be demolished, it was to be moved back, but they did not mandate that you take the building down. There's lots of buildings on West 7th Avenue and 20th Street. There's a building that has, you know, columns on the sidewalk. In downtown, there's a bunch of examples, significant examples. So I don't want to continue to say and hear that the county said this building had to come down. So I've seen, you know, and heard and discussed this at length. It was if the building was demolished, it was to be moved back. So you guys keep referring to this, but the county is not going around saying buildings in downtown that have structure in the right of way need to be demolished. I mean, if it was to come down, is my understanding. So I just want to make sure that we're not here giving information and that everybody thinks that any historic building that has, you know, structure in the right of way is in danger, because that's a problem for the preservation community, and that's really going to create a lot of, you know, difficulties for city and city staff if people are going to start thinking that because there's arches in this, you know, near the sidewalk, that all of a sudden, you know, next week buildings are coming down. So I just want to be very careful with what's being said, because it creates, you know, like what happened with this building. You were here, Sean, you know, where people thought this building was going to be demolished, and they came out in droves and they were angry, you know, very, very angry. So I want to be very, you know.
Can I clarify?
Yeah, I want to be very careful with what's said.
Absolutely, and to clarify, in 2017, when the structural analysis was done on the building, right, our development agreement was executed in 2018, 2019, as it was being negotiated. The terms that were in there were based, there was two options, right? If the county required us to relocate it out of the right of way, you know, that was one option, and it would be reconstructed. It was required to be reconstructed because in 2017, there was only 2 walls that were able to be preserved at that time. And again,
I think we're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same thing.
If it had to be demolished, but
Right.
the county didn't say it had to be. I understand
Right,
if it
but-
was, you
but
know,
the-
in dire straits and everything,
structural
but it doesn't
condition of
apply
it-
to every building that has
and
structure in the right of way,
and
is all I want to
certainly not.
clarify.
We're not
And
saying
that's-
that.
Yeah, I just want to
I
make sure
agree.
that's clear.
And that's not the case in this
I-
case, which is why every case is different, which is why.
Correct.
you know,
Exactly what
we
we're,
look
I think
at
we're
it,
saying the
we
same
design
thing.
it, which is why, you know, all these features that we're trying to incorporate, you know, which is why the Secretary of Interior standards is meant to be a guideline, it is not a regulatory, you know, instrument. It is a guideline to rehabilitation, to restoration, to reconstruction, you know, which is the rare case. And, you know, it is meant to provide you with guidance and guidelines in order to maintain the historic value of these buildings, which, you know, we've, again, taken great care to look at, to try and do. And in this situation, it was required, based on the condition of the building in 2017, was required to majorly be demolished, and only 2 walls could remain based on the structural integrity of the building at that time. Therefore, the county stated that you must relocate the building out of the right of way, and therefore there was an entire demolition was required, you know, regardless.
So, thank you. My last question is, I've looked at your presentation now several times. You guys like to refer to the tree that's growing out of the building. And I want to understand, how come the tree was never cut down? How come it was never removed from the building? Why was it allowed to grow to that size? You guys owned the building for a significant amount of time before it was demolished, and it was up in the air whether it was going to be saved, not saved, demolished, and the tree just stayed there. Why did no one cut the tree down?
I think we're talking about 2 different trees. When you look,
Look behind you and look at the
well,
tree.
but regardless, yes, that tree was growing out of the building and started to grow many years ago. Again, when we did the structural assessment in 2017, and then we submitted to the city the SAP was approved, and in 2019, when the city historic staff was trying to help us get the county's approval to reconstruct it in its same location. Again, we were only going to maintain 2 walls at that time, regardless, because of the condition. But at that time, the county said we cannot leave the building where it is, based on those conditions, based on the reconstruction plan, that it has to be completely demolished. At that time, there was,
The issue,
you know,
the
we
issue that you
shorted
bring up
up
there, Sean,
the tree.
is the tree.
The tree, go
was
to.
there when we came upon the building, when they purchased the building.
I understand, and
No,
I
but-
just want to know why nobody ever cut
But
it down.
but the only tree that we're talking about that was actually a part of a tree assessment that wasn't in a building, it was growing out of the bottom of the staircase. I think it's shown best on, let's see, I think it's on the right-hand side of one of the slides. Again, it was a tree, I believe it was an invasive species, and it was, you know, again, it started out as a weed years ago and grew into a tree, but it was within the staircase, right? It was actually growing out of the staircase. So there was no trimming it, cutting it down, you know, and it was designated in all of our reports from back in 2017, 2018, 2019, all the arborist reports, that tree would be removed based on its condition, the species, and everything, once it is demolished. Even if that wall was going to stay and it was going to stay in its current location, that tree, based on where it was and the condition of what it was, would be, you know, would be removed.
Wow.
And then the 2 other trees that are within the historic site will remain.
Thank you, and I've taken a lot of time, so just to finish up and kind of summarize all of my stuff. I'm having a hard time with the slanted, with the shed roof, and if that can stay, that would, you know, that would be a big deal for me. And as I mentioned to you, you know, this building was demolished, and the rooftop terrace is a big ask. And I've spoken to you, Sean, many times about having space, you know, for the community. I gave you the example of the old Toyka restaurant, you know, where people were welcomed, and that is, you know, that is a big deal for this community, to have a space that they feel welcome and included. And, you know, it is, you know, completely, you know, up to you as far as the tenant and, you know, all of that, but please consider that, you know, the community wants to be included too. And lastly, the signage needs to reflect first and pay homage and, you know, the historic stuff to the Dupuy building. You can have tenant signage, we go through this all the time in the MIMO district, as I mentioned to you, but the signage needs to do the best that it can, not the font, not just this one little thing, not one little reference. It needs to have more historic signage that pays homage to the building that was there. That needs to be prominent than the tenant signage. The tenant signage cannot be the biggest thing on the building. This was demolished, and that's really one of the few things that we have to reflect the Dupuy building. So those are my comments. You know, it is what it is, and thank you, you know, for entertaining me and answering, you know, all of my 10 questions. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Heisenbach.
Chair, may I respond to the signage? Yeah. Thank you. So when you know, again, we took great note to the comments on signage. The Dupuy on the cornice, designated as the Dupuy building. When you look, Heisenbach cited a specific historic reference. When you look throughout the history, you know, the most prominent place that buildings are signified and identified by is this same signage on the cornice, which is why we went there. When you look at other signage, again, the neon sign, you look at the prescription signs, and then on the north elevation, when you look throughout the period of significance, the photo evidence that we have of the signage there's Lemon City Drugstore, there's periods of time throughout that there's no sign, and then there's different signs that change. So because of our period of significance, we just, you know, we believe that there is not a specific sign that designates and should go on the north elevation. Again, we're paying homage to the Dupuy building in the cornice, which, you know, wasn't there, but that's where we're prominently, you know, calling out the Dupuy, and then we're trying to replicate, you know, we're not going to put drugs on a neon sign on the side of the building, right? Like, I hope no one thinks that that's the right decision to put a neon drug sign on the side of the building. But, you know, we want to, you know, simulate what was there, but in the modern use. Just that's our opinion.
Any other questions from the board?
The only thing I would ask, and it may not be a possibility, when I look at the photo, I understand the concern with the shed roof. But when I look at your elevations, I also understand when you add the elevator, which I think is required in the building, it takes your elevation of that second floor where that area is a little higher, because I'm looking at the other building. I was thinking maybe we can just kind of pitch the roof a little bit. But is there some sort of facade treatment that maybe could be etched on there that might give you the feeling that it's a shed roof, but it's not actually a shed roof, it's just a facade treatment from the street? It kind of gives you an angle, but behind that is actually the box.
Let Nina and I go back and take a look at what we might put on the front facade that you know, gives the angle of that shed roof, but doesn't carry it all the way back.
Correct.
We can let us fuss with that. We fuss with this with the details of that, the windows up there enough. We'll give it a good look see. Just understand on the elevator that you're never going to see it. It's in a great location. It's never going to be visible from anywhere on the property. So that's the good news.
And again, we tried to match the roof line of where that flat roof started from where the shed roof started, and not raise that so that it took away from the main building, the main, you know, metal, pressed metal and everything from the main building. And in the final design, we made it simple, plain with the windows so that it carried. Again, it's a new element, it's different, it is meant to be, you know, distinguishably different than what it was, but it's glass so that it, you know, in some ways simulates the openness between the two buildings as they historically once were. It is a change, but you know, when you add that slanted element, it is going to increase. You know, it's going to make the elevation and the point where it's connecting to the main building much higher, which is why we didn't do it.
Yeah, but if it's etched glass or something that kind of gives you a sloped view, you feel it from the street, but it's not really sloped. No.
Well, let me give it a good look see and see if there's a concept that I think could be successful.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you for your time today. So we now have legislative items.
I just wanted to add that the debris building is scheduled to go in front of the HEP board in October 1st, and the preservation officer has inquired whether or not if there's any feedback from the trust that we would like to share with the HEP board on the review of October 1st. That doesn't have to be something that is discussed now, but if there's thoughts that we can formulate into a letter in which we would provide, I would be happy to do that.
So the board members can send that to you for you to formulate the letter?
Correct.
And so they go in front October 1st, you said?
I believe it's October 1st, am I right?
Yeah. Today's.
David? October 1st for HEP board? Yes.
So I think the board members should probably send in their feedback
This
by the
week?
6th,
Yeah, so that I
That's
can
what I'm
formulate the letter,
And send it back,
and
yes.
circulate it before we provide it.
if we can do that by close of business day on Friday.
But should the letter be something formally we have all adopted on all of those particulars? I don't know.
So what we can do is that if you provide us with the feedback, I can formulate the letter, we can circulate it and get comments back so that we have a consensus. Or there could be a discussion here as far as what the suggestions are, similar to what we did with the development properties that we're going in front of P&Z board. So it depends on you.
I mean, we've heard a lot of feedback today, if that makes sense. But if there's anything additional, it should be sent in by close of business on Friday, so that way Joanne can formulate that letter, send it out to the board members for feedback, all that correctiveness. Were you going to say something, Tom?
I was going to jump in and try to help Robert out. So if when it's circulated, you notice that there's not a consensus, right? There's something you don't agree with. What we can do is have like a special call for specifically this item, right? And we have just one meeting and take a vote on the comments. If it's required, if you need it.
I mean, if I may, Chair, I gave, I think, 4 items and Robert gave 1. I mean, do we want to just put those 5 recommendations in there as the recommendations from this board and make it simple? You know, I can condense what I said into, 5 sentences or 4 sentences, my recommendations, and Robert can, better state his, that there needs to be maybe a transition piece and to make sure the elevator's not seen in the middle there with the doors and the slant roof. And we have just those recommendations to the HEP board, to the planning staff, and the historic preservation staff, and make that easier than going back and forth and, 5 or 6.
I'm okay with that. I just want Joanne to have the correct information, because it was a lot
structure
of,
here before we leave, and
back and
it
forth.
descends into back and forth for days. So if everybody's okay with that, my comments, his comment, and we can give her that and formulate a little bit better, drill down on making the comments more professional. And
I mean,
put them
if
in
we
writing.
could just provide the feedback to the HEP board as to what our discussion was today, and if they go back and they're able to make modifications to what our feedback is, okay, but
Yeah,
that
that's
would be
presented
fine.
at the meeting. Yeah.
That's fine.
The only concern that I would have, I mean, because I don't have a problem, whatever this thing is, I don't have a problem with the trellis, particularly if it's set back and you don't kind of see it next to the building. Because I think our overall purpose is to try to bring the Little Haiti community up to a walkable space where people see what's going on and have a feel for a nightlife, a work life, and everything else. And if we try to contain everything in a building, I think that kind of takes away some of the aura of seeing some of the things in the community. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the trellis, as long as it's kind of set back and it's not so massive that, you can't appreciate that it's just an outdoor terrace on a building. So I would not be supportive of not supporting the trellis. I have to be honest about that.
Yes, my concern is, what you're saying, that standing at Northeast 2nd Avenue, looking straight on at the facade of the building, that it's not right here. So that's kind of what I'm saying, that the structure's a lot and it's very prominent. So if that can be worked, and fixed up, so to speak, before the HEP board, meeting, before their formal presentation, I'm, okay with listening to those things. And, this letter is just a recommendation letter. So if they take those to heart and they fix them up, I mean, that's perfectly fine. I agree with you 100%.
Also, I don't have a problem with just the DuPont building or whatever being etched in there. I don't think you have to have everything that was ever used there as a sign, because tenants, when they pay that kind of money for a new space, they want people to know where they're coming to. So I don't think they should have to go back and replicate all of those signs. But I do think the building name should be obviously a key thing there, etched into the concrete, like you've seen in Flagler and everywhere else. I do think it's going to have a slightly different character than what was in 1902. It's going to be modernized. It requires hurricane resistance and everything else. So the windows are probably going to be aluminum to withstand hurricanes. Whether you can add blinds to the windows that give you the jalousie look, I don't know. That might be an option, because you have those jalousie looks on the windows.
I'm asking, though, for them to pay homage. I in no way, shape, or form want everything to be 100% replicated. So the record reflects that. My comments are to just not have one sign, maybe 2 or 3. and then have tenant signage. I'm asking for one or two of the signs to be more prominent than the tenant signage since this building was demolished, is my specific comment. I don't expect it to be, you know, spot on 100% replicated in the same exact space on the north facade of the building. And,
Maybe.
no, that's not the way preservation works.
Maybe the homage could be done, one, in some sort of bronze placard on the building that gives the history of the building. And maybe there's some other enclosures inside, artwork or whatever, that kind of gives you the feel of what the building looked like and some history on the guy himself. I mean, that's one way of paying homage without a whole bunch of old signage, but something that will stay with the property forever. If it's a bronze little piece in the wall, as people come in, they actually get some history. And maybe it shows a picture of what the old building looked like and how you guys have done this great restoration job to kind of duplicate it, replicate it. Maybe it can be done that way.
That's perfect. That's good.
So is that a consensus on that item that in reference, no, well, I don't know. Do we need to kind of solidify this in a motion in reference to those comments? So it's your 4 comments plus the update with his suggestion in reference to the signage?
Some signage, a brass placard, I apologize, something like that, that you're saying some pictures of the old building, a few signs, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I don't expect the building to be wrapped like it was in, 1938 or something of that nature.
So I think just for clarity, the letter has to be drafted because at this point, we're making suggestions and but until the letter is drafted, I think the letter needs to be drafted and there needs to be a consensus what is contained in that letter. So draft the letter with all the comments that were, send it out, and as Tom said, if we need to take a vote, we'll take a vote if we cannot reach consensus after the feedback.
So the only legislative item we have on the agenda is the minutes.
A motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then now we'll have the CEO report.
Yes. Excuse me. I'll try to move it along quickly. As far as administrative updates, we did do the advertisement for the board seats in the month of August. We did receive applications which are currently under review. As FIU stated earlier, we had our 3rd community workshop, which is the last one. We're hoping to have the strategic plan completed within the next 30 to 45 days, and we're still taking inputs from a survey. I'd like to encourage everyone to please complete that survey. It's 45 questions that are strategies that you scale. You grade from 1 to 5. It's pretty quick. As a recap, the trust hosted a day of service on August 24th. We had about 10 participants that included staff, board members, and volunteers, in which we canvassed 11 city blocks right next to the cultural center, pretty much to bring awareness and promote some of our initiatives, such as our small business grant and especially the home rehab program. We spoke to about 25 homeowners. We left information for those that we weren't able to connect with at each of the homes. We summarized the needs of the residents that we spoke to. Primarily, it was groceries and food assistance, public services, such as tree trimming, street cleaning, sidewalk repairs, the request for housing support, medical, mental health care, senior programming, employment assistance, and safety concerns. We also took the opportunity to collect as much data from these residents as well so that we can stay connected to them. So emails, phone numbers, in addition to the addresses as well. Other administrative updates is South Florida Community Land Trust. A final contract was submitted to them. Their disbursement schedule would be dependent on the exhaustion of city funds from the city. They are scheduled to receive, I believe it's 300,000 from the city in addition to our 750 that we're giving towards that program. We received their revisions to that contract yesterday, so that's currently being reviewed by the legal department. Next is that the trust will be entering into some contracts as for financial contracts with Tri-Merge Consulting. They did do our audit last year. It's already audit time. We're going to be entering into our second audit. And then Rodriguez Tax and Advisory for accounting services, not only for our new fiscal year, but they will be going retroactive through October. So they had provided us with an engagement letter, which is currently being reviewed by legal prior to us entering. Legal is also still reviewing the memorandum of understanding with Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, so we're awaiting that in order to proceed as well. We're looking into exploring the potential for holiday beautification efforts for the upcoming holiday season. Another request that has been spoken about at the last few meetings is assisting with getting residents trade certifications in order to be able to be certified for the jobs that will be coming with the Magic City project. We have connected with FIU School of Construction so that we can gather information regarding what educational resources are potentially available. So hopefully we'll have a more update in October. The announcement is in regards to parks that's having their strategic community meeting a week from today here at the Little Katy Cultural Center from 6 to 8 p.m. As far as programming updates, we have received 2 applications for our home rehabilitation program. The first address that was submitted to, the first application that was submitted to the city, we did receive a denial based on the lot. There is a duplex and also a single family home on that property. They're denied at the city based on the fact that at the improperty appraiser is showing as a triplex. So that may be brought in front of the board as an exception, because our policy is only for single families and also duplexes. So we're in the process of reviewing that, and we'll see whether or not that'll come before the board. The second application that we've received is approved by the city already. They are receiving the city's limit of $100,000 on their property, but they still have additional repairs that need to be done. The city's estimating about $25,000 and is asking the trust to contribute towards those repair costs. So that's currently under review as well. As far as the small business grant, we provided 2 more checks here tonight. We also, I believe, will have another 2 ready for next month. So the applications are moving forward. We did also receive an additional 2 applications, which are listed on the spreadsheet as under review. And then the next spreadsheet that you see is the funding request update. This is the first time that we're providing this, but I just wanted to provide an update that even though some of the proposals may not come or reach in front of the board, but we have been receiving additional proposals in which we've provided consultations with those to revise their application or submit additional information. And we have denied some based on them not meeting the criteria that are needed in order for us to be able to bring those initiatives forward. So I wanted to provide you with an update as far as that is concerned. Next is the Haitian Heritage Month, where we are with the reimbursements that were submitted. An additional 2 were actually submitted today. And then you have your financial report with the expenses monthly and up and as to date for the fiscal year. And that concludes my CEO report. I don't know if anybody has questions.
So just looking at the programming update, we're about to end the fiscal year. So if we're looking at the fiscal year, well, no, the fiscal year begins October 1. And so October 1 of 2023, so we would have gone an entire year without providing any funding because the last two funding submissions or approvals were in July of 2023 and August of 2023. And I understand the denials, the consultations, just want to put that out there.
So the funding request is Pierre Toussaint, for example, they received their check 2 or 3 months ago.
Submission, okay, so it was approved, okay, I was looking at the date of submission. Okay. Sorry, so it was approved, so the thing is, it was approved in October 2023, so for this fiscal year, we have approved only 2 funding requests. Okay, just wanted to make sure, I looked at the date of submission.
Oh, no
not
problem.
the approval date.
Yes, so we've only approved 2 that qualify based on the funding policy that we've created. The other ones that we felt that may be viable, we provide information for them to come back to. They don't always do, and then some have been denied because they don't fit the requirements.
And as to the home rehabilitation, that hasn't been, I guess, drafted for the board to take into consideration. You just kind of mentioned it. So.
Yeah, so we received 2 applications. One, because of our process, has to go to the city first. So now we received the denial letter, I believe yesterday or today from the city. So now we can bring it back in front of the board for an exception if the board would like to consider that. The second one, the city is currently working and doing their evaluation because they're going up to 100. They have to come up with the exact dollar amount of the additional work that they're going to be asking the trust to fund. So they're still working on that part.
Okay. So we should be, I guess for next month, have that on the agenda for the potential exception for the home rehabilitation?
Yeah, we'll have the exception and we'll work to see whether or not the city has their numbers on how much they want for that second property as well.
Okay.
Through the chair, I just had a couple questions. One for executive team about the surveys that have been completed so far. Are we tracking those, or is that being tracked by a third party?
The surveys for FIU?
Is this the FIU survey that they're clicking on?
Well, on the banner?
QR, yeah, on the
No,
QR.
that just brings us to the trust website.
Okay.
So we have FIU has a different QR code for the survey. So far we have about 35 responses. We're still advertising it, social media, email blast.
Do we have a numerical goal of how many people we want to?
I think ideally the minimum we would want is 50.
Okay. All right, so what's the deadline?
We're gonna keep it up until Friday.
Okay. Another question I had, I think it's more about the FIU partnership, that construction program. Is there a way that we could probably also bring DA Dorsey vocational into it? I know they do like vocational training, and it's not too far from here, maybe 2 miles from here. They do adult vocational training, and I think and it's part of Miami-Dade public school system. I think it'd just be a natural relationship that we might be able to, look into. Can we look into them as well?
So in this stage, all we're doing really is researching. So if you have people who have the resources, because the role of the trust should be to advise people of the resources that are already being provided out in the community. And so we can encourage, because I think we have to be careful of not taking on these responsibilities that really were given in the SAP to Magic City as deliverables, regardless of the trust, to ensure that they do their good faith effort, right? And letting the residents know and providing this information regarding it. So I see our role as the trust of just being able to advocate. These are the jobs that are coming in the pipeline. This is where you can go to get your certification. And if you then receive your certification and you're looking for that opportunity, we can be there to be the advocate. So we're not looking to replicate or duplicate services that's already being provided.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Just putting them as just an added resource.
Sure, no, definitely.
And with the beautification, are we talking about, and just trying to get clarity, beautification, does that mean like signage, or could we maybe do like community gardens or something like that, or painting? Like, to what extent can we, when we talk about beautification, how can we resource that?
So it was brought to my attention that for us to look into holiday decor kind of beautification efforts because the holidays are coming. So I'm going to look to see what type of holiday decor is done in other areas of the city and see whether or not that's something that we can potentially advocate for to also be done here in Little Haiti.
Okay. I mean, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I just want you to know, Executive Director, you're doing a great job.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
That's not a question.
And the shirts look very professional. Good job.
I'm expecting everyone to wear their shirts to the next meeting.
Got
You
it.
got your shirt? Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, I think we are. Well, were there any discussion items?
No, I mentioned the announcements.
Okay. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned. I had it. Meeting adjourned.
All right, cool. Good job. Is it before 8?
3 minutes.
Say no 3? No. 3 minutes? Yeah. Okay, you did good, Sharon. You did good. You steered this thing good. Yeah. I like it. Give me a nightcap. You want to talk tomorrow? I just want to run for their money every night. I know. She can take it to the 10th round every night. And no short fights, but I can take it 10 rounds every time. Like, come on. We don't have like painting and I think she was going to right now. It's not as about day 2. I think she just reached out.